Welcome to session 3 of the Adventures of Konrad. Something that can really kill a campaign is lack of clarity about what's happening, what's going on, what is the goal, mainly. So I took the liberty before shooting this of putting together through logic what's next. When we last left Konrad, he had just witnessed a dragon turn into a man. And the man's name, according to Dante's Divine Comedy, was Khrist. And that's a pretty loaded name, so I decided that, when Konrad asks him what his name is, he says, he says it's pronounced Khrist. Okay, so this is Khrist. He's just entered the picture. So after Konrad watched the dragon turn into this man, and he asked the man, you ate the devil's thistle and you transformed into a person. Does that work for everyone? Khrist says, yes. The main use of devil's thistle is to return a cursed being to his original state, or something along those lines. Konrad had a vision, because in session 2 he said that the devil's thistle was given to him by someone, the only person who was ever kind to him. I keep it with me as a reminder of the only person who was ever kind to me. But she is dead now. And when he watched the dragon turn into this man, he had a memory of her and her hometown, which I decided is called the village of Madrigal, or Madrigal Village. And I've decided that basically Konrad's quest is to find out who he is, because he's almost like the classic trope of the amnesiac. He doesn't really know what a Vulcan is, why he's one of them. His goal is to find out who he is. As Khrist owes Konrad a debt, Konrad has convinced Khrist to assume the role of an old friend of the woman who died, and to inquire about her and see if, by talking to her family, if Khrist can't uncover some information that might jog Konrad's memory. So he knows her name was Dahlia, from the town of Madrigal in the north. It was 6 p.m. when Konrad arrived at the melted warehouse. So they're having a little campfire. I'm gonna say it's 8 p.m. and they're not leaving for Madrigal yet because it's nighttime now and the road north is too dangerous. So they're going to make camp in the ruins of this warehouse. So as they're sitting around the campfire, Konrad asks Khrist why he was turned into a dragon, to which Khrist replies that, like Konrad, he doesn't remember his past either. All he knows is he woke up one day as a dragon. And when Konrad asks why Khrist in dragon form burned down the warehouse, Khrist says he's been flying around destroying sites of war, as he calls them, to maintain peace in these lands. He reveals that Godfrey Higgins is a very bad man. He wanted the dove's blood to raise an undead holy army to wage war on the northern territories. Khrist believes Godfrey will regroup and succeed at raising this undead army, but he tells Konrad that he has some time to help him, and perhaps to find out about his own past, why he had been turned into a dragon. That sort of sums up the end of scenario 2, and I'm moving on to chapter 3, and it's simply called To Madrigal. So I've decided that Madrigal is in the north, just because that's where I feel like they should go. I'm going to roll a D100 and that'll tell me the miles. Madrigal is 76 miles away. Okay, so here's our hex map. I had to cut together some pieces of paper because I screwed up in the first session. So this is our weird hex map, and we know that the town of Madrigal is 76 miles north, so that's 12 hexes. I'm going to include the hex they're in as one of them because it only goes so high. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here is the village of Madrigal up here. So they have a ways to go. If each hex is 6 miles, and they can travel about 2 hexes per 8 hours. They're not really in a particular rush. Konrad's goal is existential. Maybe he'll have more memories along the way. 9 p.m. they go to sleep. So a 1 on a d6 will determine if there's an encounter in the night. 2, nothing. Roll again. 3, nothing. And that was because I'm saying they slept for 8 hours. So try to roll once every 4 hours for random encounters. So they sleep through the night. The next morning, and let's see what the weather is now. 10. Beautiful weather. They really, maybe it's a little chilly because it's 6 in the morning, but I'm going to refer back to the Hex Crawl Adventures by Luke Kennedy. If you want an explanation of how I'm doing this, you can refer back to session 2. So at 6 a.m. they leave the heavily forested plains and head north into the heavily forested swamps. I'll roll for a water feature. There was none before, and now there's still none. We'll roll a d8 to see if there are any points of interest. On a 1, there will be. 7, no points of interest. And then I'm going to roll for a random encounter. 3, so that's not a 1, so there's no random encounter. So I'm going to say this takes twice as long as it normally would because Khrist is just a man with boots, whereas Konrad is a quick-footed Vulcan. So this hex is going to take 8 hours. So I'll roll a second random encounter at 2 p.m. for nothing. 2 p.m. made it safely through the swamp. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat the process for each hex and, you know, keep track of the time of day, the weather, random encounters, and, you know, every 8 hours they need to rest and possibly eat something. Konrad's still hungry. It's just occurring to me. I don't really usually worry about rations and stuff, but it's sort of part of the narrative at this point. So I don't see any rules for tracking prey in the basic fantasy rulebook. Konrad's been around the block. He knows how to do this. Usually a 10 is easy, 15 is medium hard, 20 is very hard, 25 is impossible. I think you actually need ability modifiers to roll above a 20. But I'm just going to say it's a 12. So anytime Konrad is looking for food and he rolls a 12 or higher, he's able to stalk it and kill it. 4. So in this swamp, Konrad isn't able to see anything. It's starting to affect him. And I'm going to say every 2 hexes, meaning every 8 hours that he doesn't find food, he's going to lose 1 hit point. Khrist ate the dove, but he's gonna start getting hungry too. So every 8 hours these guys have to roll a 12 or higher. No food in sight. So they're in a swamp. Got a 2. Now they're entering some hills, and it was densely forested. Now it's going to be still densely forested. So they're coming out of the swamps, which I think Khrist is relieved. He doesn't like the swamps. Once again, no water feature. It starts raining pretty hard as they come out of the swamp into these hills. And even though they're under the cover of trees, the rain is still coming down and starting to soak them. No point of interest. I don't think the rain slowed them down, so this took 4 hours. So it's now 6 p.m. Heavy rain in the forest. Can't forget to roll the random encounter, so 4, nothing. Okay, they come out into some plains with a light forest. Let's see what the weather is here. 7, okay, the rain has stopped. It's partly cloudy at a 7. So the rain has stopped and they're trudging along. Okay, so I'm gonna say that's what they see out in front of them are these open plains and a light forest, but they've been traveling for 8 hours, so they actually need to stop and rest here at the edge of the woods. Maybe they can find like a dry cave or something. Let's roll on the oracle chart. I'll say it's somewhat likely they can find a dry place to rest. 23. Yes, they find this dry cave and they huddle inside there. Maybe they make a fire again. They still don't have any food, so I'm gonna roll and see if Konrad can slink out into the woods again and look for food. On a 12 or higher, he finds something. That is a 15. Okay, so I'm gonna say he sees a small deer some ways back into the woods, and he successfully stalks it and jumps on it and takes it down. So that means these guys have dinner for the night. Yeah, he just sort of tears into this thing, and Khrist is like, hey, maybe you think we could cook that a little bit on the fire? And Konrad has this deer's blood all over his mouth, and he's like, what? Why would you? Oh yeah, something about, he sort of has a vague memory that people do that, and he drags this deer over to the fireplace. He and Khrist share a nice meal together. Konrad hasn't eaten in days, it seems, so he's feeling amazing. He feels this blood flowing through his body, bringing him back to life. So I'm going to say they eat and they go to sleep at 8 p.m. and they're going to rest for 8 hours. No random encounters through the night. So as Konrad is sleeping, he has more visions of the town of Madrigal, and it's coming into clearer focus for him. It's almost as if he's spent some time here. He's starting to recognize certain specific locations. The image of the woman's house, the family house, is becoming clearer and clearer. He even knows where it is in the town. They wake up at 5 a.m. and continue north. I'm just gonna make myself a little chart for what to roll for in each hex because I'm getting a little bit confused. Weather, terrain, vegetation, water feature, point of interest, random encounter, and food check if it's been a full day. And it might seem a bit dull right now that nothing's really happening, and that's because I haven't rolled a 1 for a point of interest yet. In a future campaign I might change it to like a d6 or something so there's more of a chance, but I'm going per the hex crawl adventure suggestion. Alright, here's our shiny new hex crawl checklist. I'm going to check for the weather again on a d12. 1, ooh, it is really bad down there. Lightning striking the plains, they can see it out there. It's 5 a.m. They're wondering if maybe they should just stay in their cave a bit longer and let the weather pass. So I'm going to say that's what they do. How many hours until it clears up on a d4? 1 hour. Okay, so it clears up to the point that they can continue their journey. Yeah, there's still not really a water feature. I'll roll for a point of interest. 6, none. Random encounter, none. And then they make their way across the plain. And they're all soggy and sort of miserable, but once again they've made it with no point of interest or random encounter. And we're gonna carry on to, we'll say, this hex. So the weather is held. It's now, once again, it's partly cloudy. Okay, more plains with dense forest. Is there a water feature? None before. Still none. Point of interest. Boom! Got our first point of interest, everyone. How exciting. Let's see what it is. So, like I said, you roll a d8 on a 1, you get a point of interest, and then you roll a d20 to see which of these things it is. I'll roll the big d20. This is a gift courtesy of my friend JB. 18. An abandoned mine. Trying to think if they have a reason to go in there. Honestly, I don't really think they do. So far, it's a very realistic hex crawl. So it's 2 p.m. They should try to eat again. No encounter. Do a food check. Can Konrad conjure up some food? 4. That's a no. Alright, moving on to the next hex. We will check the weather. Oh wait, I just realized I did that whole hex wrong. Okay, so I got a little confused. I need to fill this out as I'm going, so really this was supposed to be, we'll just cross out that. This was supposed to be, I think, our densely forested plains. And this is where they saw that abandoned mine. I'm also learning as I go. So, yeah, it's 2 p.m. and they're here. Alright, so we're on to this hex. Really nice afternoon, 2 p.m. 3 hills. Okay, this time I'm going to draw it as I go. More dense forest. Water feature. There's a lake here. Ooh, alright. There's this beautiful big open lake and the weather's really nice, and they just sit by this lake for a little while, taking a little break. I want to see if I can find a cool description of the lake. I'll just roll on that. So 182 has water landmarks. This may have no bearing on the story. It's just for lack of anything interesting so far. They they stopped at this lake. 72. The lake is sort of broken up into a series of deep ponds. It looks like a lake at first, and then as they get closer, they realize that it's actually just comprised of a bunch of separate little ponds here in the hills. So let's see if there's a point of interest around here. No. And do they have a random encounter? No. I'm gonna say maybe they take a quick swim around 4 p.m. in these ponds just to get all the muck off of them that they've been walking through. Pleasant swim. No encounter. I need to roll a food check now because it's been 2 full hexes. 17. Oh yeah, he finds some food. Maybe I'll roll in this book again to see what kind of animal it is. 59. I knew it. I knew he was going to find a moth. I knew it was going to be something weird and not very filling, but he finds like a weird cocoon by the lake, and it's full of moths. I don't know if moths hang out in a cocoon. I don't think they do, but no, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna say there's a moth-like creature that hangs out by the water here, and both Konrad and Khrist, they go around and they're just scooping them up, grabbing some out of the air, scooping them off the top of the water, and they're just filling their mouths. Maybe even Konrad stuffs a bunch into his pouch. So they're good on food, they're good on all that. So they're officially halfway done their journey. It's 6 p.m. and they're here. The edge of this densely forested plain that has a lake in the middle. It's more like a bunch of ponds. No encounters, no real points of interest besides the lake. And it is 6 p.m. That means they've traveled, we'll say they traveled 10 hours. They're gonna take their long rest now. So maybe at 8 p.m. 5, 2, nothing. So it's 5 a.m. They're gonna head, well actually, if they were camped there, it's more likely that they're heading into this hex. So I'm gonna check the weather. 8, very nice, mostly sunny. Now they're entering the mountains. Okay, this is the first time we have mountains. Okay. Densely forested mountains. This is gonna take them 4 times as long because it's mountains and it's densely forested. Now to keep track of this, I'm gonna break this into fourths. And you know, I'm gonna call them the Madrigal Mountains because I think that sounds like a cool connection to the town of Madrigal, which is to the north. So I think actually, because this has 4 opportunities for random encounters and points of interest, I'm gonna leave it here for now and just leave you guys with the image of Konrad and Khrist entering into the foothills of these densely forested mountains. So stay tuned for that.